Hey guys, how you all doing? My name's Ben Marshall, and today on my channel we shall be comparing a £40 second-hand Squier Strat to my retail new price £2.5 PRS USA John Mayer Silver Sky. So let's get started. I bought this guitar about a year ago, and it is the most money I've ever spent on guitar. I've always played Strats. I had a very nice USA Deluxe Strat, and I actually intended to go and buy a 1970s Fender Strat, which is quite sentimental because my first guitar teacher had one and I always wanted one. It was amazing, natural, really cool guitar. And it was stocked by a guitar dealer called Jordan's Guitars, who's based in Leicester, and he's a brilliant dealer, so I'd highly recommend him. But anyway, at the same time, I was getting really excited about going to look at this guitar, which I really shouldn't have been buying, but we all know how the gas strikes us in more ways than one. But as I went, I noticed he had a few PRS Silver Skies, and I'm a big John Mayer fan, and I thought, you spend a lot of money on this 70s Strat, maybe just compare it to a PRS and just check you're making the right decision, or whether you want something a bit different. So I went, the 70s Strat was really cool, but I made the mistake of picking this up, and it was just so nice to play and so light and different to my other Strat because it's a rosewood board. I just couldn't walk away from it. But anyway, we're not going to go on about this guitar forever because we want to compare it to that one. So very quickly, what does it get you? I bought this for £1,900 second hand, which I think was a really good deal because it was just unplayed. But what it gets you is absolutely a beautifully crafted instrument. It's one of the nicest guitars I think I've ever picked up. I picked it up and I'm used to playing USA Fenders, albeit standard ones, not custom shop ones. Never really played one of them. Hopefully I will at some point. But I just thought that is so beautifully made for that price, and it was just night and day over the vintage Fender, unfortunately. So, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. So it gets you all this beautiful wood. I'm not normally much of a tart, but like the flame on the back of this is beautiful. It's so lightweight, and we've got these locking tuners with lightweight heads on them. We've got a bone nut that's beautifully cut. We've got these nice birds, which I'm going to go into this guitar in more detail. I've shot this bit twice now, and where I'm going on about this too much, so it is due a video. But you just get that craftsmanship. These pickups are beautiful sounding. The tone and volume knobs are like mastering grade. They really do make a massive difference when you turn them up and down. You've got this lovely sparkly finish. You don't have a back plate. We could go on and on. But how close can a £40 mass-produced instrument get to this beautifully crafted USA PRS? So let's get out the other guitar. Here it is, £40 Facebook Marketplace Fender, well not Fender, that's the biggest mistake, it's a Squier Strat. £40 off Facebook Marketplace. My brother found this and he just wanted something Strat looking. He doesn't play loads, he likes to pick it up now and again. And sadly, he didn't play it an awful lot, and it had been in his garage where he does work with cars, so it was absolutely filthy, and I've given it a full setup to the best of my ability and given it a really good clean, and it's got new strings, which coincidentally so does the PRS. So they're both set up how I like Strats, which I think is a good point to note. Same strings, new strings, set up, nicely clean, so I feel like I can play them both to the best of my ability. So what do I know about this Squier? When I've looked into it, we have this serial number, which is a little bit tricky to decode, and I've looked for a while. My best guess is that this is a 1990 Squier made in Korea. I got quite excited when I found that out because I thought, oh, that's going to be really expensive, like one of the early Squiers, like the nice Japanese ones, the JV ones, which are beautiful guitars and which go for like £1,000. I was like, oh, is it going to be anything like that? But no, people don't seem to like them very much. Consensus is they've got loads of different bits of wood, they're not very well put together, etc. But when I first saw this guitar, I didn't really agree with that. I thought, wow, that is a nice little Strat. Like, that's a really cool guitar. It's It's got a chunky neck, it seems to be built with a bit of quality. And yeah, £40 on Facebook Marketplace. Coincidentally, if you want to see some other bargains I've picked up on Facebook Marketplace, I made a whole video on that, so please go and check that out. But for now, we'll go through the specs of this. We've got some really simple tuners on the back. One of them's been replaced at some point by somebody. You've got a plasticky looking nut, which is quite nicely cut actually. Fret ends a little bit sharp, if I'm being totally honest, but not unplayable. You've got a nice chunky chunk of, I believe that's rosewood. You've got quite a nice fat neck really. It's not a thin one. I've played thinner fenders, fender shaped necks, but I say it is like a sort of C sort of U-y shape. And then you've got your classic Strat setup. We've got 6 bolts in the bridge. We've got, well, it's a bloody Strat. There's not an awful lot I can say about it. It isn't set up quite like it. Someone's done this setup on the back, which some people might like. I'd personally probably spread them out, but that's just personal preference, isn't it? It's got quite a thin mass centre block at the back, and I have had to tweak the action quite a lot, and there's loads of debris left in here from the factory. I don't think it was put together with loads of care, but it's 40 quid. So how close can this guitar sound to something which is, how many more times the price of 40 quid is this? That's second hand one, that's £1,950. This is second, third, fourth, fifth hand, who knows, and it's £40. So let's plug them in and make some clean sounds so you can hear the difference. We are going through my Marshall DSL 40, which is on half power because we're in my attic and we don't want to blow the neighbours' heads off. And my wife's sleeping downstairs, so I apologise to her in advance for the racket I'm about to make. So we're going through that on half power mode. We are on the crunch channel with a little bit of gain, almost halfway there. Volume's only on about 2 or 3. Resonance and presence, which they always annoy me a bit on an amp to be honest, but they're halfway. We've rolled a little bit of mid off on the amp, got a bit of bass and treble, so it's sort of a light, crunchy, but verging on clean tone. On the floor, we're going through a range of pedals, but we're not going to mess around too much with them today because I want to hear the actual difference as much as possible. So we might slap a little bit of drive on, but it's basically going to be clean. And I'll try and play a similar thing on both instruments, and I'll try and cycle through the pickups a little bit and maybe try rolling the volume off. So I apologise if there's a bit of background hum, but it's a Strat and there's lights about. That's amazing. Feels a little bit unfair because that's a very scratchy part, but it does feel quite on and off. Let's try the tone quick. And that's very on or off. So, initial reflections. I'm pretty gobsmacked, I suppose, because I've seen lots of these videos and I was probably expecting it to be a bit more night and day on the sounds. Playability is another thing, which we will come on to, but that's pretty amazing really, considering the price difference between these guitars and the amount of development and money and time and effort that's gone into making them pickups and that guitar resonate. And then you compare it to something that was rather slapped together and quite badly set up by me, and the tones aren't really a million miles away, are they? Really not, quite shockingly so. There's a massive difference in the quality of the controls, and that's not just because they're a bit old and scratchy, but as you find on a lot of cheaper instruments and cheaper pots, the volume is very much on or off a little bit, and the tone is either woolly or bright, and you haven't really got any shades there. But what we have got is six individual, one, two, three, four, five on a Strat, Ben. 5 quite individual sounds. Really quite pleasing ones as well, I think. There wasn't any of them pickups that I got to and thought, oh, that's terrible. Yes, it doesn't sound as composed and expensive, I guess, as the PRS, but I'm quite snobby about these things, and I was really quite gobsmacked that I just plugged that in and thought that sounds like a nice Strat sound to me, of something so cheap. So let's play something a little bit different with a bit more gain, and then we'll come back and reflect on some playability and the question, I guess, which is how can something that's 40 quid compare to something that's nearly £2,000 and a lot more if you buy it new. So we'll start with the PRS again. We'll put on my Joyo, which is basically a fake tube screamer, but I'm quite fond of it. And once again, sorry for the buzz, but it comes with distortion, so close your eyes, pretend it's a really, really terrible version of Hendrix at Woodstock or something. I'm not even going to make that comparison, what a silly thing to say. Reflections then. Pretty crazy really. I don't know whether psychologically there's maybe a little bit more pressure when you play something really nice that you're trying to compare to something that's a little bit unreachable if you're a mere mortal. Whereas if you play a Squier, something quite cool about being the guy, I guess, with the £40 Facebook Marketplace guitar who can get some cool sounds out of it. So I think I'd feel pretty embarrassed if I went to a pub with this and then some kid got with this and showed me up. So I think that really points towards the recipe is there with both guitars. Even this is so cheap. I think it's a really good example of a cheap Squier, to be honest. People wax lyrical about new ones, including myself, and they say, oh, guitars are a bit rubbish back in the day, cheaper, affordable ones. But I could set this up a lot better if I tried, or particularly if I got a good setup person to do it for me, it'd play way better. But the ingredients are there, and this guitar, I shouldn't speak ill of it like it's just lost to a Squier, because it definitely hasn't. But it really inspired me when I got it, and I think I played the best guitar I ever played when I went and took it to a gig the night I got it, which was lovely. And I love it now, and it's such an object of desire for me that I want to pick it up and play it. And I know I'm always going to be the limiting factor with how this guitar sounds and plays. With this, am I full of that desire to play it all the time? No, I'm going to give it back to my brother next week. But I'm gobsmacked you can get something for that cheap, and it makes you feel like a bit of a mug for spending loads of money. But we're fickle creatures as musicians and guitarists, I think, and I think the key thing is what inspires you. And I think weirdly, during that, I found it quite inspiring to pick up something dead cheap and think, flipping, that sounds good, like, can I play as well as I just did on that? And yeah, pretty amazing really. Playability, nowhere near as nice. Craftsmanship, nowhere near as nice. The sounds, if we're honest, not as nice, not as expensive sounding. But would anyone at a gig ever notice? No. Is it uncool to play a Squier? No. I think there's something really cool about having a budget guitar and doing nice things with it. So, both great instruments. I'm not going to trade my PRS in anytime soon for this, but I found that pretty crazy, to be honest, how close they sounded with the same strings, going through the same setup, and hopefully I've given you an okay comparison between the two. So, final reflections. I don't think I've got a lot more to say, really. This one's better built, and I love it, and I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it, but this for 40 quid is an absolutely phenomenal instrument, and it's not going to stop you doing your thing. If you want to, and you want to get out and play, and you don't have a budget, hopefully I've just shown that money doesn't mean a thing in music, and as long as you can get sound out of it, sometimes it's really appealing having something cheap, and it'll probably earn you a bit of respect as well in certain settings. So I guess that's my last thought really. Don't ever let not having the money to get your dream guitar stop you from just playing, because that's the important bit at the end of the day. And it's really cool you can get cheap guitars that do the same thing, and if you were Jimi Hendrix or John Mayer, I guarantee you'd still sound like Jimi Hendrix or John Mayer whether you're on that one or that one, but you're probably going to choose to have that one if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, doesn't mean you're not going to play guitar. So I hope that's been informative in some way. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give me a like and subscribe, because it's massively helpful, and I'm loving making videos, and I'd love to do some more for you, and it'd be nice if some more people saw them. I hope to get a bit more comfortable in my playing in front of camera as well, and this is a nice challenge for me. So please keep watching, please keep subscribing. I'll keep practicing and trying to do better and get better with the cameras and the recording and all the rest of it, and I will see you next time for another fun video. Cheers guys, take care.